Having made his debut as one of the original Vault Hunters in Borderlands, Brick was born on the planet of Monotius. The only thing we know about his parents are that apparently his mother was just as good of a fighter as he is. So unlike what I've been doing with the other original Vault Hunters, Brick's past is actually slightly contradicted from his origin comic that was released on February 20th, 2013, and the opening cinematic present in the game itself. The comic takes place on an unnamed world sometime in Brick's past. At this point in his life, it is insinuated that he had joined this group of marauders who would raid villages, towns, etc., claiming money and valuables. But Brick did live by his own morals, that no kids would be roped into what they were doing. This would play its part when the group he was a part of led a raid on a place known as Birch's Vine. Per usual, they began taking the valuables by force, but this time they took all of the kids as ransom. If the townsfolk wanted them back, they would have to pay. This obviously didn't sit well with Brick, as instead of leaving with his band, he sat in town and was placed in jail. Later that night, he decided he was going off to rescue the kids, so he punched his way out of his cell and wound up beating his former associates to death while berserking. Later in the morning, he returned with all of the children, and as a reward, one of the kids gifted him a dog named Priscilla. The comic then cuts to modern day as he's walking on Pandora and is picked up by Marcus on the side of the road where he meets everyone. While in reality this doesn't explain much about Brick other than his morals and how he got his dog, that's sort of where the contradiction comes in. You see, while in the comic Brick was gifted Priscilla as an adult, in the opening of the game you can see Brick had her as a child. While it isn't exactly the most absurd character contradiction, it is one nonetheless. Either way, whether you want to consider the comic canon or not, in both instances in modern day, Priscilla is dead and he wears her paw around his neck as a necklace. It is important to note that his reason for being on Pandora in the first place was he is in search of his sister who is missing, and he has come to find her. He also at this point had gotten a bounty placed on him similar to all of the others, but Brick is wanted for dismemberment of anything that moves for $9,999,999.99. And this is where the events of the first game take place. While Brick does play more of the strong, silent type, he does manage to work well with Roland, Lilith, and Mordecai in stopping the Destroyer. It seems that after this game he began to warm up to the others a bit more, not being as silent and being one of the founders of the Crimson Raiders. After their success of opening the vault, Brick had actually gotten another dog which he named Dusty. But while things would seem nice for a little while as the Crimson Raiders grew and they began to fend off Hyperion, one of the residents of New Haven named Shep Sanders, whom the characters had met in the first game, sold out New Haven to Hyperion, which led to the fall of New Haven, where Jack sent Wilhelm to attack everyone and destroy the town. It was during this event that Brick's dog Dusty was killed by Nisha in front of him by snapping his neck, which made Brick cry. He was then subsequently imprisoned by her, though he did eventually manage to escape, blowing Nisha's jail sky high. And then out of pure rage, Brick then found Shep and shoved his fingers through his eyes and cracked his skull open, killing him. Due to this excessive force of violence, Roland kicked Brick out from the Crimson Raiders. Being back on his lonesome, he then decided to become exactly what it was Hyperion was treating him as, a bandit. And so Brick had founded the Slabs, being their king. On a side note, during the events of the first game after the characters defeated Sledge, Brick had taken his hammer and now uses it as his own as the Slab King. He also added another paw next to Priscilla's on his necklace to represent Dusty. And this is where the events of Borderlands 2 take place. After some time building up his reputation, Roland decides he can use his assistance once more, and thus he sends the new Vault Hunters out to seek Brick's assistance in storming the bunker. While Brick would initially mistake them for Hyperion, he inevitably figures out that they're not and decides to initiate them to the bandits. After proving themselves, he agrees to proceed to rejoin the Raiders once more, providing aid where necessary. After Roland's death and Lilith's kidnapping, both he and Mordecai take command of the Raiders and are there to help storm Handsome Jack at Hero's Path. After the takedown of Handsome Jack, Brick would stay with the Crimson Raiders, helping Lilith and the others wherever necessary, One such mission he was sent on was the capture of Athena. During the events of Tales from the Borderlands, he and Mordecai are hired by a woman named Valerie to deal with Athena. Lilith sends these two out to capture her and pay for her crimes for assisting Jack on Elpis. While the two struggle, they are capable of apprehending her and dragging her back to Sanctuary. While Lilith attempts to assassinate her by a firing squad, she is saved from the Watcher, who warns them all that war is coming. Brick had also managed to get revenge on Nisha for killing Dusty by raising hell on the town she ran, Lynchwood, and challenging her to a duel at high noon where she was killed. Throughout his experiences in playing bunkers and badasses with her and helping her out in the Commander Lilith DLC, Brick and Mordecai came to become close to Tina as they saw how lonely she was. Due to this, both he and Mordecai went on to serve as Tina's parents, being dubbed the B-Team, still assisting the Raiders but in a more secondary way. And this would be Brick's future for the next 6 years between Borderlands 2 and 3. Not much would happen with him other than taking care of Tina. And within Borderlands 3 itself, once Sir Hammerlock is kidnapped, the B-Team are hired by Wainwright Jacobs to rescue him, which they do. But for now, that was the history of Brick. Definitely a rough outer shell, but really being a teddy bear on the inside. When he's not brutally punching things to death out of enjoyment, that is. His sister is still missing and they have yet to bring it up, so perhaps it is a plot that we can get to sometime in the future. But hey, if there are any other characters you'd like to see me do the history of, then be sure to let me know in the comments below, and until next time, I'll see you in the next video.